Hi, Harriet. How are you? Good afternoon to you.
I'm just trying to remember now. You're ahead, so it must be good evening to you.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yes,
great to
it
be
is
here with you, Nick.
8 p.m. for me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for saying yes to be interviewed today, Harriet. And also thank you for reaching out on LinkedIn. I love the work that you're doing. And we're gonna dive deep into what was it like growing up with somebody that has, that is neurodiverse. We call that now, right? Yeah.
In neurodiverse, yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah. So I'd like to introduce you to our listeners today and myself, and then we can get right into the conversation.
Excellent.
Hello, everyone. We have Harriet Bratt here with us. Harriet is an internationally recognized speaker, trainer, and firewalk guide who has empowered audiences around the globe. With a background rooted in mindset, positive psychology, leadership, and communication, Harriet has not only inspired thousands, but has also trained hundreds of speakers to confidently share their own powerful messages. Harriet brings a unique blend of expertise and passion to her work, guiding individuals to tap into their potential, transform their self talk, and overcome fears. Her Impact program has become a cornerstone for emerging speakers, equipping them with the tools to communicate effectively, deliver with impact, and develop the confidence to lead. She's known for her ability to help employees and professionals feel empowered, become more productive, and excel in their communication and public speaking skills. In everything she does, she seeks to inspire others to tell their own story, find their voice, and make a lasting impact on the world. Wow, wow. Welcome, welcome, Harriet.
Wonderful to be here with you. And thank you for all you are doing in all of your work, but particularly this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. Okay. Now, before we get into the serious things, the serious side of the business, can you share with us what was it like growing up as a
So you said not to go into the serious side. So
not yet.
I share
I
my
know, but
joyous, playful. I
no,
think
no, 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 no.
obviously
We can definitely go. We can dive deep into whatever the challenges that you face growing up and
yeah.
the dark
I mean,
side.
I'll give it a bit of a combination because they naturally lead into each other, which I'm sure many people's stories do within this space and this particular topic. I'm really blessed. I was adopted. I was adopted at a very, very young age. I was openly told, openly communicated that I had been adopted and welcomed into a wonderful, loving, and very supportive family. It was really just blessed. Lovely house, garden to go and play in. Like little Harriet was a happy girl. And then at the age of 7, I was diagnosed with ADHD. It's such a buzz topic these days, but it feels like so long ago for me. I was professionally diagnosed, but also kind of through family and friends that had read many books, done a lot of research, etc., etc. So they took me to this specialist, and I was diagnosed. But I'll be really honest, it wasn't the ADHD. I don't know if we'll get time to touch on that, but for me, it was nothing to do with the ADHD, the neurodiversity, the personality trait, as I like to say. It was actually the approach. It was how people spoke to me. I said a moment ago, I had such a good childhood and I was like happy and carefree, run outside barefoot. Yeah, let's do this. And suddenly this happy child that expressed herself in
Mm-hmm.
bold manner was suddenly being told, like, sit down, be quiet, stop showing off, stop seeking attention, go and take your tablet. And I understand that driving that really was just love, wanting the best for their neurodiverse daughter,
Mm-hmm.
wanting her to understand that she needs to have different approaches, or not needs, different approaches would benefit her in life. But it came across in quite an aggressive, and I think statements that affected my mind, that affected who I was. I started questioning myself. Like what felt very natural to me to do, I was being shouted at and told not to do. So it was that questioning began of, oh, well, how am I supposed to behave? Like, how should I fit in here? And
Yeah.
really starting to repress my very natural way of being. So yes, I did have a great childhood, but at the same time, I think it really was that pivotal moment that started me feeling the name of your podcast, by the way, great name.
Thank you.
That's kind of where it started to kick in for me as a kid.
now you just got me curious. I want to ask more. Like, why did you say it has nothing or maybe has very little to do with ADHD, but more about what was being told of you? Like, do this, basically conform to the society.
I'm sure many people listening to this know the power, the influence, the effect of adults, doctors, media in your life consistently telling you something, so you start to believe a certain story.
Mm.
And we don't always realize that it's a story. It's not a fact. It's not necessarily 100% truth, but we start to form these opinions. I mean, we've just had the American election. Shall I go into the stories around Trump?
Oh,
Or should we keep that out? Let's
no,
that out.
no. We can dive deep. We can dive, maybe touch surface level. Yeah,
Well,
let's do it.
it's more just to remind everybody and highlight that not everything that we are told is the truth. But a lot of what we get told, especially when we're younger, we believe to be truth.
Yeah.
So with ADHD, for me, like let's get it even more simple. For those people that are watching, you can see me holding up my two fingers. For listening, I'm dancing with two fingers, right? So my right hand is well, both right and left hand are people with ADHD. Person one gets told they have ADHD, but gets loved, gets supported, gets told your ADHD is a superpower, gets told these areas are going to be more challenging for you. However, these are some ways that you can support yourself to do it. Focus, concentration, etc., etc. B has ADHD, but gets told you can't concentrate, you can't focus on anything. You have ADHD, you're showing off, you can't behave like that. So both people have ADHD, but imagine what's going to happen in each individual's life. Which one is more likely to thrive with ADHD, to feel worthy in their deserving and etc., confident, fulfilled, all of those wonderful words that we all want to feel, versus the person that gets told essentially the message they receive is they're not good enough and they don't belong. So it's not ADHD, it's what people say to you, it's how they approach you about that condition. And for me, it's the same with a lot of different conditions or diagnoses.
You mentioned ADHD being a superpower. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's also got me into like a lot of trouble. It's got me into some precarious situations because essentially a lot of people with ADHD are very impulsive. Yes, we
Shoot. I had a
the
friend just called out, just called me out, like I think yesterday or today. And he was like, "You're impulsive and unpredictable." And then what are the odds of me reading your profile? And I'm like, before the interview, I'd read all of my guest profile. And then now you saying this, I'm not clinically, definitely not clinically diagnosed with ADHD, but I have the tendency of, wanting to try different things. So like me hearing you say it, I'm trying to see if I'm fitting into those checklists that you're saying. So forgive me for cutting you off.
No, you're good. You're good. I certainly recommend like looking more into it for yourself, reading more about it, finding out more things. Obviously, it's not just the impulsivity, but that is a big part of it. And I think that especially with something like ADHD, a lot of the traits, a lot of people I meet, and don't get me wrong, a lot of people I meet don't. And I'm like, well, it's very apparent you do not have ADHD. But a lot of people I meet, I also think, you could, you might, you probably do. So I think there's like traits, but also scales, right? The same with autism. You can autism, but really not display any visible traits at all. But you could be very high on the spectrum and noticeably be autistic. And I think with ADHD, it's much more invisible. It's inside of us. People don't see it, but they know it when it shows up. You know when you're around somebody.
Right.
With ADHD. So definitely research it. But in terms of superpower, like I say, I've had to learn to take that moment of pause because as I started saying, like sometimes you jump into things way too quickly. It's like pause, ground yourself. Is this a supportive decision? Is this a good decision? Etc. It's going to be so different for all of the different situations. But on the flip side of that, what stops us the majority of the time? Fear. The
Yeah.
biggest and only thing that ever holds anybody back is their fear or their limiting beliefs around something that they truly desire, not an ego desire, but a true heart, soul aligned desire. The only thing that is ever stopping us is our fear. So for somebody with ADHD, don't get me wrong, we still need to do the work. We still need to self-talk, journal, etc., etc. I'm sure you talk a lot about different ways we can support ourselves to feel worthy. We still have to do all the things. But for somebody with ADHD, it's much easier, and this is probably a bold statement, some people might come after me here, easier to act on what's important to you. You know, I think of so many situations in my life where perhaps I haven't had the money, but I've invested anyway. I got on a flight with literally nothing in my bank account. But I made
Hashtag
5K
relatable.
within 5 days of being within, it was going to the US for an event, right? So I've said yes. And I've taken action in a lot of times where people would be like, no, I can't do it. And they look at me
Exactly.
and they go, whoa, you're so bold. You're so courageous. And I go, whoa, I just didn't think. Right.
Yeah. Yes.
So in that sense, it is a superpower. And, you know, just to big up myself a little bit, my husband just says it's also a really fun person to be around. It can be hard. It can be challenging because when they show their emotions, they show their emotions. You know, when they're angry, you know they're
Oh,
angry.
tell me more, Harriet. Tell me more. Hi, I'm Nick Nieras, your host of the Your Worthless podcast. Now, if these real raw stories hit home, don't wait. Please follow, like, and subscribe my Spotify and YouTube. For bite-sized inspirational reels, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Don't wait. Your transformation starts today. Thank you, and bye for now.
You know, and don't get me wrong, I'm so much better now because of what you support people with and you discuss. I was listening to your podcast with the gentleman that spoke about horses and personal development.
Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant interview. You know, it's an ongoing process and it's self-talk and there's ways that we can improve who we are, how we are, and the way in which we show up. So now I can kind of take a breath and pause. I go quiet, I take myself off into a different room, and then we come back and have a conversation. But in the past, like, whoa, James is my husband. He is a patient, kind, loving man. And he put up with a lot, I would say, because I had a lot of unhealed childhood stuff that obviously got rippled on as I had my adulthood experiences too. I was cheated on by quite a few partners, so I used to find myself jealous, and I didn't know that jealousy was a self insecurity. I thought it was because of what
The other
someone else was
person.
doing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I used to get real mad and angry, and I would shout, and especially when you had a few drinks on board, or at that time in my life, probably quite a lot of drinks on board, I would shout and I'd get angry and I'd rage at him. And, or even if something happened in the house, like let's give another example without alcohol, just day to day, if something happened that annoyed me, like I'd shout about it, I'd let it out, I let my anger out, you know about it if I'm mad. But in the same way, you know about it when I'm happy. Like most days, especially at this time in my life and for a few years now, I do feel happy most days. And again, people with ADHD will express that. They'll show that so they can be a real joy to be around. You said a moment ago about unpredictability. They
Mhm.
can be an emotional roller coaster because you can turn so quickly. Like I can go from being really happy to like, oh my God, this has happened. I
Yeah.
can go from being this has happened and then 5 minutes later, like, oh,
Yay.
squirrel, you know? So everybody's different, but that's been my experience of it. And I think with awareness and with conscious choices, ADHD is a superpower. Unrecognized, low self-talk, non-awareness, it can be really challenging for people. But yeah, it's absolutely. And if anyone with ADHD wants some tips and support, then of course, reach out.
Beautiful. And how important is a partner to support
I
somebody
mean,
with, yeah.
like, this is a funny one, isn't it? Because I want to say like, yes, very, but at the same time, I want to say no, because there's people out there who don't have a partner. And I
Yeah.
truly believe that they can still build their self-worth. And what I would say is absolutely everybody needs to build their self-worth from within. So even if you have a partner, they can support your journey. They can make it easier. You can have incredible conversations, etc., etc. But they can't do the work for you. So even if you have a partner, like you need to, there's so much different language and ways of saying this, but do the inner child work, the dark night of the soul, the shadow work, like however
The
you want to,
shadow. Yeah.
you've got to do that work. You need to do that yourself, and you can be held, you can be loved, you can be supported by a partner, by a friend, by a coach, by a mentor, by so many different people out there. If you're someone right now that feels like, I don't have a partner, I don't have someone that I can talk to, like, with love, get online. Saying that you don't have anybody isn't good enough anymore, because there's so many people. And with love, maybe you don't have somebody close to you physically right now, and I send you love and empathy and the highest intentions that you build yourself a tribe. But you have an online space. If you're listening to this podcast, reach out, connect with Nick. She knows what she's talking about, and maybe she can give you, or listen to all of the podcasts, right? There's ways in which that can support you. So yes, I think it can massively help, but no, I don't think it's essential.
Mm. Wow. Amazing. I love that answer. Because if somebody were to listen and then they say, okay, Harriet says, oh, I listened to a podcast by Nick, and the guest says, I need to find a partner. And then there they go, without doing the inner work, they have to go out there seeking somebody to fill up the void, the work that they have escaped.
Absolutely. And I want to add something here. You saying that's got my mind going. It reminded me of a Tony Robbins moment. I think there's a lot of
I love
people
Tony Robbins. Go
Yeah,
Tony.
absolutely. But there's a lot of people out there, both ways, women and men and non-binary, everybody,
Yeah.
everybody. I'm including you all. But there's a lot of people out there that will blame their partner for how they are feeling. Yes. So I think we need to include that, actually. I love it's flowed like this. Even if you're with someone, you might think, oh, but my partner doesn't help me. They don't support me. They do this. They make me feel like that. They make me angry. They blah, blah. No, they
Stop
don't.
right there. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the quote that it reminded me of. I think it's Tony Robbins that said, if you want to change something in your life, if it's your job, your career, your finances, your health, change it. If you want to get a new job, you're not happy where you are, quit and go get a new job. But in a relationship, if you're not happy, change yourself first, then see how you feel. And if you're still unhappy in that relationship, maybe it's time to move on. But the self change, the ripple effect for both your partner, he may start, or she, again, everybody may start changing as well. And you can grow together, or your behavior through your own self work will change and shift, and there'll be a natural difference. My mother and I know she's not my partner, but we used to argue so much. Two strong, opinionated, fiery women. We argued so much, and I used to come back and whinge and complain and moan about it. And then I thought, oh, I'll do something about it. So I changed myself. I healed what I found incredibly difficult and challenging when I was younger. I healed. I had forgiveness. I had so much love. There's other areas coupled in there. Adoption, boarding school kind of gives you a little bit of a fear of rejection. So I had a lot of healing to do around that. But once I was able to heal that and show up in a different way, me and Mum don't argue anymore. Like every so often we'll have a little bit of a ping pong match,
snapping at each other. Yeah.
but we really don't argue anymore. Why? Because I have healed and I show up differently. And anyone that's listening, you can do that with your partners, with your friends, with your family. And I'm not saying it will always work, but if it doesn't, you'll be at peace in saying, I understand that we're just very different people right now. They don't understand me and I don't fully understand them. And maybe I'm not going to see them as much anymore. Or if you're married, maybe we are going to get divorced. And it might be tough and it might be challenging, but there is life after divorce as well. But trust yourself, work on yourself first.
Spilling all the golden nuggets here, Harriet. I love it. Thank you so much.
I think I went off on a bit of a tangent at the end there, but the message landed.
No, trust me. I think in my podcast, we've gone through, I don't know, the depths of everything, spirituality, self-worth, and then we went to AI, and then sexuality, everything under the sun. That again, it ties back to worthiness. So Harriet, okay. Now, how did you come about working as a speaker and trainer? What was your journey?
I'll share it really quickly because there's sort of a couple of steps to it. So just in a nutshell, I at the time was a care home manager. So I ran a 44-bedded residential home for beautiful, wonderful elderly residents that had dementia. At the time, I got to a point, I think like so many people, many of your listeners or watchers can relate to, where I was so stressed, I was so overwhelmed. I was working about 80 to 100 hours
Wow.
whilst I wanted to provide a week. I wanted to provide like person-centered care and love to the residents, but all I was ever doing was paperwork for the government. So I just didn't enjoy it. And there's many other factors that go with that. But I got to the point of like desperation. I had a morning, it was a Thursday morning in the office, and there's this huge, big window right in front of the office where all the staff, the residents, the visitors, everybody walks past. And I had a
Breakdown.
breakdown, snotty nose, mascara running everywhere, cry. There was one of the lounges that was very, very rarely used. I ran into the lounge and like, let it all out. And by chance, by coincidence, by beautiful divine synchronicity, whichever way you want to look at it, there was a newspaper sitting next to me open, and it had a little advert that said, do you want more positivity? Do you want more flexibility? And do you want to be your own boss? I didn't know what it was for, but I was like,
Wow,
I'm
that was
in.
the universe speaking.
Yeah, I
to
was just like,
you.
I'm in. And it was actually for network marketing. I met with her, the lady that came to pitch with me. I wanted, within 2 minutes, I just wanted to tell her to be quiet because I didn't care about what she was saying. I just wanted to invest. I was like, stop selling, I'm in. But I let her do her pitch. But in a nutshell, that's where I found personal development. So I started listening to all of these incredible speakers. And I actually heard Les Brown's story of his experience in becoming a speaker. He was listening to Zig Ziglar, a motivational speaker, and one of his friends turned to him, tapped him on the shoulder and said, you could do this. And he said, what? Public speaking is a thing? Listening to that story on YouTube made me go, what? Public speakers?
That's
Like I just hadn't connected it. And even going and seeing speakers. And at that time, I'd done a Tony Robbins event, doing various trainings within the thing. I just hadn't connected. Like the person on the stage is a speaker. You know, I just seen it at the event, the experience. I just hadn't connected those dots. I thought I was going to go into mindset coaching. And then one day it was like, no, speaking, training, facilitating. So that's how I got into it. Spent a few years, obviously, getting qualified, doing various different courses, programs, events, had a mentor or many different mentors over the years. And of course, became a firewalk instructor to really support both my journey, but also people that I train as speakers.
wow. Whoa. And okay. And you mentioned Tony Robbins. Did you meet him personally?
No, my goodness.
I would love
I
I
would
was
really
at the
like to.
stage.
I was probably more obsessed with doing that in the past. I've got some other people I would like to meet now, but yes, I would certainly like to meet Tony Robbins. I got like a couple meters away from him and had one of those like selfies all blurred and
Right, like
you can't
like
really tell who it is other than the fact that it's a giant, so it's probably Tony.
yeah, Tony. I love him. I love him. Wow, wow. And you probably are the closest to Tony right now that I love your energy, Harriet. Like really, it's so contagious.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Now, what, in your opinion, what are the challenges that you see today plaguing the generations surrounding the topics of self-worth?
I mean, like a light bulb in my head going off is media, especially mainstream media, because I think, friends, don't get me wrong, I still believe that social media has a huge influence on people and their self-worth, especially without awareness of what that's scrolling and looking at those pictures and telling yourself those stories. If you're not aware of what that's doing to you and how that's feeding your continuous story of not being worthy, not being confident, not being good enough, not belonging, etc., etc. If you're not aware of that, that can be immensely challenging. So yes, social media, but the difference with social media is I think now you see so much positivity as well. You know, it's so easy to access the other side. There's so many people talking to this topic, helping you. That's why I said a moment ago, like I sound a bit blunt saying it, but it's not good enough to say you've got no one to talk to anymore, because at the click of a button, there's millions. I was going to say thousands. It probably is millions. I don't know for sure, but definitely thousands.
Yeah, for
Of
sure.
people can, in fact, hundreds of thousands, right? It probably is millions of people that are able to support you, especially if you think of all the different modalities that people can work around self-worth, confidence, loving yourself, self-love. I think I've gone completely off and I'm trying to think what your question was. Please excuse me.
The challenges. No, that's okay. Challenges that are
Yes,
plaguing
challenges,
generation.
of course.
Yes.
Yes. So I started going into the positive. I think social media, that's probably why I lost the question. I think that social media has this beautiful balance, but I do feel that the biggest challenge still is the
Sifting
media,
through.
and the way they project, especially for women. Let's just use that example. There's so many areas that we could speak this about. You know, you still walk into a shop now. I was actually reading a book this morning by Glennon Doyle, amazing book called Untamed, and it was about stop pleasing other people. And yet one of the chapters in there was about her going into a shop with her children and seeing these women like naked, tiny waist, big boobs, etc., etc. And don't get me wrong, for all the women out there that look like that, beautiful, holler at
Yeah.
somebody. But there's
Yeah.
a lot of women that don't, and that's okay. You're beautiful too.
Mm-hmm.
So the little children were in the store, and the author, the mum, Glennon, said to her child, you know, what do you think of women when you see this? And the daughter, I think she was about 9, looked up at these magazines and just said, like, everybody's skinny, everybody's got blonde hair. And I don't get me wrong, because I know there are a lot of brunettes that go on covers now, and there is more diversity happening. But on this particular moment, it was obviously blonde. And I forget the final thing that the little daughter said. But in that moment, and I thought this was beautiful, Glennon turned to her daughter and said, and now stop and look around the shop. Look at all the women in the shop. What do they look like to you? And she went through and made all these beautiful, like, she looks fun, she looks happy, she looks cool, I like her outfit. Do you know what
I
I mean?
love
It was
it.
just an instant moment of like, oh yes. You know,
Like
now that
that. Yeah.
means it's still a form of media, it was still a moment of like, oh my God, when I look at this, this is the impression I
Mm,
get, this is the story I tell myself. But when I look over here and see it this way instead, I have more understanding. So I think the biggest challenge is the way that the media project many different areas that still has, for those that are just unconsciously scrolling, absorbing, letting it all in and living by what they say. I think that's the biggest challenge.
when you were saying it, I remember a time, it was yesterday, my sister, the youngest, said to me, I got my hair done. So naturally my hair is it's a bit curly. So this is for the purpose of waking up to not having to have spend at least an hour to just be like this. So and then she was just combing my hair and said like, you're pretty. You're prettier than me. And I'm like, that moment I'm like, I told her, you're prettier. I said, you should not compare me and you. We're all beautiful in our own way. You have your talent, you have your gift. I told her, I talk a lot about this on my podcast. So and she hears me. She's in the room right now because but she's
Oh, you got headphones
she's
on.
12. Yeah, I have headphones on. So she's 12 and she's heard me talk to so many people that talks a lot about self-worth, but I don't know. I hope girls her age will be able to see that, media is one thing for learning, but there is also authenticity that is so much important for her to understand and accept. And this is me, this is who I am, and this is how I'm going to present myself to the world. So being with her peers is important, yes. But then being with somebody because I wasn't at home. Now I'm at my parents' place, to be honest. And why I think if you saw my calendar before when you were checking it, I had the whole month of October blocked because I was busy moving from Kuala Lumpur all the way to the East Coast. So big move, and now I'm back here and like reorienting myself. Like, okay, now I'm back. So and also I've been away
Good
more.
energy for your new chapter.
Thank you so much. So yeah, it's and coming back to whatever that you said, I love it because everything is tying together. And sometimes I've spoken to so many people, and also you have spoken to so many. I mean, holding your own conferences, speaking events, and sometimes I at least me, I forget like what I do. I love what I do, but then I forget why I do what I do.
And why do you
Every
do?
time because I love talking to people and I love showing them exactly, that they are enough, then they're worthy as they are. So you are worthy and you're enough. That's it. You're not
Yeah.
worthless.
Yes, beautiful. And I want to honor and acknowledge you, just very much to wrap up the conversation we were having. But I want to honor and acknowledge you because I've not listened to every episode, but I'm certainly going to listen to more. But what you're doing with this is an example of creating that change, you know, whether it's for the young girls, young boy, whoever it's for. There's so many different ways in which different individuals feel a lack of worth, and you're out there contributing it. So I want to just honor you and your work and your podcast, and let's keep rising together.
Thank you. Okay. So, Harriet, we were mentioning about the challenges that plaguing the generation. So, how do you think you can help these people through your work? Becoming a podcast host was a natural extension of my second act. Now, after spending 15 years in the corporate world, I've transitioned to helping individuals overcome challenges like navigating tough relationships, career burnout, and aligning their mission with their soul's calling. By certifying as an RTT hypnotherapist and a lifestyle coach, I've made it my mission to empower people to recreate the life they deserve and building a supportive community through my podcast. Now, let me ask, are you facing challenges like struggling to reprogram your mind to attract wealth, weight issues that feel like a constant yo-yo, insomnia or restless nights from daily worries, or just a lack of confidence in public speaking? If the answer is yes, visit www.thenicknearholisticlifestyle.com and grab a free hypnosis audio of these common struggles. It's a sneak peek into how my coaching works. Are you feeling shy? Don't be, because I'm as real as it gets. Let's connect on Instagram and LinkedIn and start your transformation today.
How do I think, or how do I know?
How do you know?
So just remind me of the question again so I can be really specific.
Okay. How can you help these people when we said that the generations that are lacking self-worth or in areas in their life? Yeah.
Got you. So essentially, how can we help them to have more self-worth and yeah, amazing. Cool. I am so excited and so passionate about this, and it's very easy to answer. I said kind of briefly earlier, some of you may have missed it, but I mentioned very briefly that I started doing mindset coaching at the beginning. And I hugely believe in the power of coaching, but there's so many different modalities, so many different ways of healing. But I'm a big believer in that process. And I think that's one of the biggest ways to support you with your self-worth is having that external support and guidance that then allows you to really go in. Because as we said earlier, you have to do it yourself. But having that initial prompt, support, guidance, healing process, etc., is immensely powerful. But I realize I'm not a very good coach. Like, I'm just being honest.
Also, why?
I'm just being honest. Like, it's just not, what I loved about your answer a moment ago is it was about other people and it was about how you help them. But I love how you just boldly said, like, I love doing this and I love doing that. Yeah, it took me a long time to actually just say, when people say to me, Harriet, why do you love speaking? Why do you love running events? Because I love it. I absolutely love it. Whether I am there as a participant, whether I'm there as team, whether I'm there as the event host, whether I'm a guest speaker, whether I'm running the whole thing, I love it. And I love being in that environment. It absolutely lights me up. But at the beginning of my journey, I really felt like I had to say, it's the impact I provide for other people and it's making a difference in other people's lives. Now, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love that as well. That's very simple. When I see someone walk across the fire and I see the fear before they walk, and then I see the empowerment, not just on their face, but running through them when they finish, that's incredible. When I see a speaker walk in on the morning of day one or at the beginning of my online program and they're like, oh, I'm not very good at this, or I'm not effective. And then on day 3, they walk out and a few months later, I get a message saying that they're public speaking. Amazing. Like, that's incredible. But also just being able to own what you do and love what you do and know that you're good at it. Like, I am not your girl to sit in a chair and have a one-to-one conversation, like, weekly. I'm not that person. Put me in a room for an event. Oh my gosh, I am your woman. I can support and serve you with that. So now, kind of finishing this question and going back to your previous one, that's how I help people. I train speakers. I train speakers that are out there supporting and bringing the message of self-love, self-worth, personal development, spirituality, healing, etc. So I train speakers that are coaches within this area. And that for me means that not only am I out there traveling the world, impacting thousands, soon to be hundreds of thousands, and it's crossed in a few years' time beyond that, but I'm also training speakers who go out and do the same thing. Imagine how that ripples. The other day, I trained the other day, excuse me, probably about 9 years ago, I trained a lady in speaking. She did one of my events, then she did one of my programs and had like some follow-up accountability. She messaged me fairly recently to say that she is now training speakers. She's supporting people with,
No.
right? So now I'm training a speaker who's training speakers. Like, that's so exciting. So for
That's your
me,
legacy. Yeah.
it'll be different for everybody. But for me, the way I help and serve those is through speaking up, sharing the message, being an example, because I think we have to be what we're speaking about. So
Walk the
speaking is
talk.
inspiring through the platform. I do a lot of graduation talks as well. So I'm grateful to work in that space with that age group as well. But then also training other speakers who do similar work.
Brilliant. You're doing great work.
Thank you. You too.
So we're gonna circle back to the ADHD. So say this is the questions that I wrote earlier. Gonna say, okay, what may come, and then this came up. So say there are parents with kids that have been diagnosed or not formally diagnosed with ADHD. What is the very first thing that they must do if they spot the signs?
What a beautiful question and very unexpected.
Sorry if I'm putting you
No,
on
I
the
love
spotlight.
it. I love it. What is the first thing that a parent of someone with ADHD should do? I think open communication, have the conversation. Like, yes, do the research, have conversations. Perhaps, especially in this day and age, find people on the internet that also have it, maybe have certain conversations. But the most important conversation is the communication between you and the child. Talk about it. Don't see it as something bad. Don't be negative about it. Support them. Yes, there might be challenging areas, but how do you find solutions together in those areas? And how do you embrace the that ADHD is in other areas of their life? So I think open communication and patience. They're different to you, you know? One of the biggest game changers, I don't have children, so I can't speak about it from that perspective, but I think it's the same thing and it's relevant for parents with their child. My husband and I, he doesn't have ADHD and we have very different communication. He's very slow. He likes detail. He's very methodical. He has a lot of process. I'm very quick and have bullet point conversation, right? So there's no right or wrong. It's just different. But without him and I, like, we've spent a lot of time communicating about that. And now we have amazing communication. But in the past, we had a lot of arguments because I would get impatient and be like, yeah, faster. Why can't you just give me a yes or no? And James would be like, oh my God, you're rushing me. Give me a B, right?
Yeah.
But when we understood, and again, think about this parent child, when we understood and were patient with how the other one communicated, you know, so often now I will say, like, I know I'm being super quick here. However, and I'll justify why. And sometimes, most of the time, I try to be really patient and let him communicate in the way that he does, and then have
And
my
then jump in. Yeah.
exactly, right. But it's just understanding. So a parent, especially if you're a parent without ADHD and your child does, just talk about it. Be open with how you both like to do things, how you like to communicate, and then be patient. Everybody's different. And this isn't just ADHD, this parent and child in any environment. Everybody's different. So love, patience, accept them for who they are, love them for who they are, support them in being the best version of themselves, but essentially let them have their journey.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I cannot wait to release this episode. Okay.
Yay!
Yay. Okay. What should they pay attention to that they may have overlooked with kids with?
I know it's a little bit boring of me, but really I think it goes back to that. I'll use a different example now. I think it's even in other environments, you know, having the conversation again that everybody's different and some people won't understand. And I think, you know, I used to get told off so much when I was younger by teachers, by adults. because they would they'd almost punish me thinking that I'd intentionally done something and I was a bad person. And they'd start really telling me off and shouting at me. And as I said at the beginning or at some point through this awesome conversation, that started to make me retreat and question myself.
Yeah.
So if you can be aware of who they're spending time with, how they're being treated, what they're being told when they're younger, and then tell them, if they do get shouted at for something that they didn't do wrong, like, it's okay. I know you're impulsive. I know that you didn't mean to do that. You probably didn't think. However, next time, knowing this, what would you do different? Right? It's just different communication. And where possible, raise that awareness. Like, if I was a mum of someone with ADHD now, and this was happening, say in school, teachers were saying to my child what I was being told when I was younger, I'd go in and have the conversation. I wouldn't go in and attack them. How dare you say this to my child? Because that's not going to help anybody. But I would say, look, just to let you know, my child is so and so, they have ADHD. Do you know much about ADHD? Are you aware
I
of
love that. Yeah.
and what tendencies they have? And if you do, awesome. In which case, can you tell me why you said this? It's not very helpful. But if you don't, amazing. That's totally cool. A lot of people don't. But would it be okay if I just shared a few things? And I understand you've got a classroom full of students. However, this won't work. It will push them away. This approach could work really well and actually help you and the rest of the class. Because, of course, children with ADHD can be disruptive. They'll do something. They'll talk. They'll throw a rubber, do something with a highlighter before. They're not thinking like, I'm going to throw this rubber at this student and disrupt this class and whatever. They're just like, oh, and they've done it.
Fun. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So
Very intrusive thoughts.
Yeah, approach.
Oh my God. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Whew. Okay, Harriet, thank you. Now, if you could give a crash course on how to build one's confidence right now, how would you do it and what would your content?
Absolutely. Crash course in a couple of minutes. Let's go.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've mentioned it a couple of times now. I'm a speaker trainer. I support people not just speak, but impact from live and virtual stages. I also support you in your everyday life with speaking up. Yes, we are communicating in different ways every single day. But before either of those, where does it start?
You, me, yeah.
Exactly. Your self-talk. How are you communicating with you? What is your story? You are the only person that is with you all day, every day, in absolutely every situation. Take a deep breath in if you're listening to this. That little voice, say hello. Not out loud, but say hello. That voice. And if you're anything like me, there's probably an army of voices in there. But those voices, that voice, the way that you speak to yourself, a lot of people don't know, but the awareness is growing. We can take charge of that voice. And a lot of people are their own worst enemy or their own biggest critic, but we can become our own best friend. And it takes time. It takes time to shift that. Some people, you go to an event, you have a little bit of coaching, you have some therapy, whatever it might be. And then you think, bam, I'm set for life. No, it's a little bit like your body, right? If you want to be fit, foxy and fabulous, go to the gym once or eat one salad or do like a 9-day cleanse and then bam, you're set. It's the same thing with your confidence, with your self-worth, with loving yourself. We're human. We experience all the different emotions. But your self-talk, for me, is the tool that is with you in all of those moments. So let's train it to be our friend. Like, I've got little names. Warrior is who I call in when I'm taking action. I'm in momentum. I'm leading events, etc., etc. Garcia's like my techie lady. I don't know if anyone's ever watched Criminal Minds. I'm like, Garcia. And if I'm getting stressed out something, if I'm getting overwhelmed, I'm like, Garcia, I need you. Because my voice will start going, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't want to do this. I'll leave it for now. I'll do it another day. It's stressing me out. And I go, Garcia, help me with this. We can do this. What's the solution? Right? So get playful with it. But essentially over time, now the way I speak to myself, like, it's fun. I'm my own best friend. And again, like, this has taken a long time. I was my own worst enemy 7 years ago. I was horrible to myself. I had no self-worth. I didn't like myself. I questioned myself. I was insecure. Like, people meet me today. People meet me then and they didn't see it because I was very good at wearing a mask. People with ADHD are. I was very good at showing up as Happy Harriet, but inside feeling in a lot of pain. And self-talk, don't get me wrong, meditation, visualization, journaling, being in nature, having powerful conversations, being in events, having external support, listening to podcasts like this, like all of it. But for me, the one tool that is with you in every single moment is how you speak to yourself. So become your own best friend and build your confidence step by step through trusting yourself to take action, even when it is scary.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Wow. Oh, wow. Yes. I love that. I think everybody's listening to this right now. They'll be like, okay, what is one thing that I could take away from this? Give a sneak peek of what Harriet's program is. And there you go. There you have it. Self-talk. Begin with that.
Just begin with it now. If you want more information, absolutely connect with me, but start using it now and just notice. If you're someone that's not aware of this and this is all brand new information, then just take time today, like take an hour after you've listened to this, 24 hours, and just start noticing how you're speaking to yourself. And if you're someone that has heard this information before, maybe it's just time for a check-in. Are you still of your little voice? Like, what story are you telling yourself? Because I found that I really progressed and I really grew, but then I got comfortable being comfortable again. And I realized limiting beliefs that I was presenting as like, oh no, it's okay, I'm good. But actually, I was stopping myself and creating a barrier for myself because there were underlying fears and a story that I couldn't go to that next level.
Right.
Yes?
Exactly.
Check in. What story am I telling myself these days? And is it really true? Does this story, do my thoughts, does the way I speak to myself empower me or disempower me?
Because you worked so much right to this level, and then you stay at that level for a while, and you regulated your emotions, how to say, and how you operate at that level, and then after, I don't know, a period of time, you say, okay, I'm beginning to be very comfortable with where I am right now. I'm efficient to this. I've reached that level, but then can I go higher? Yeah. And that's where the check-in comes in, and super important. Like, are you pushing yourself to be more? Like, are you expressing yourself the highest version? And yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. It's a great reminder for me as well.
Message me when you've checked in with your story.
Yes, I will. What work are you most proud of so far?
You know, I'm actually going to share. There's a few different things because I think pride's an interesting word, or being proud of something's an interesting word, and tapping into like, what are you really proud of? What's the feeling behind that? So there's a few different things. Like Les Brown, who was for a very long time the world's #1 motivational speaker, gave me feedback describing me as the Kobe of the speaking world and the LeBron.
No.
Yeah, right. So that was an amazing moment. Someone that I've watched probably hundreds of hours on YouTube and admire so much gave me that. That was a very proud moment. It was also a very satisfying moment. But actually, something that I did yesterday, right? I'm going to share a really recent story. I am part of an incredible community. I'm not going to say what it is because of the nature of what I'm sharing here, but I'm part of a really powerful community, and I'm actually a board member within that. Fairly recently, I joined on August this year, and bear with me, listeners. And suffice to say, and I think there's a lot of people that can relate to this. I actually spoke to my friend in the evening and she really resonated. When someone has been in an environment for a long period of time and they've been doing things a certain way for a long period of time, they can perhaps be a little bit controlling, a little bit resistant to new ways of doing things. And I'm not the only new board member. There's three new board members. So in total, there's 7 of us, and then the leader, the founder of the organization. And essentially, of course, we're striving to improve, to expand, to evolve, and to get better. So we're bringing in these progressive ways of doing things, these more efficient and effective. New word. Effective and efficient ways of doing things. And as I say, there's some resistance and some control issues, and it's created some emotional friction between the board, and it started coming out on a call and then in messages and da. So again, I'll say, like I just put within the group, let's not do this in a message. It doesn't help. And that's for everybody out there. Like, if you're going to message, calm down before you do. But I would really advise just not messaging. Just get on a call, especially if it's a text message. There's no tonality.
Yeah.
No one. Right. Anyway, before I give a speaker lesson about messaging, I just said, Like, let's get on a call. So we've arranged for all of us to meet and we're going to have a very open, honest, transparent conversation. But behind closed doors, I had a wonderful private conversation with the person who is only doing it because she so deeply cares, but is actually because she cares so much and doesn't see that therefore she's being very controlling and protective of what she's doing. It comes from love, it comes from care, but
Yeah.
it's very controlling and very restrictive for the other members, and the other members feel it, and therefore they're not happy, right? So behind closed doors, just in a one-to-one, I really went and had a conversation. And before this, I was like, I don't need to do this. I'm going to crack on with my work today. I'm going to carry on. I've got so much to do. I'm away in London this weekend. I've got fireworks coming up next week, blah, 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 right? All the things. Everybody's busy.
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I giving it so energy? And I just took a pause, took a breath, and actually asked myself that, why am I doing this? And instantly it just came through me, for the greater good of our members. Because if you have this private conversation and you're able, because essentially it comes back to this, she doesn't have self-worth in herself. That's why it shows up in a controlling and attached manner within this environment. There's some insecurity and there's a lack of trust there. So it needs to come, I've heard on your podcast, I said I listened to, it comes from within first, right?
Mhm.
Within her, and everybody has to take responsibility. So I was able to have that conversation. I was able to own some stuff and apologize and acknowledge certain things, like being a bit quick with my communications, shock horror. But actually she then owned, and she started to see from a different perspective how she'd been. And it wasn't intentional. She didn't want to do it, but she understood how it was having a big impact. So now that emotion's gone, the perspective has changed. So when we have our open conversation, we can just be really honest about what it was, but now look for expansion, progressions, and improving our structures with full unity and harmony. And no one will ever know. Well, some people will know about that conversation that listen to this podcast, but probably no one in that community, in that board, some of my circle, of course, will hear it. I'll share it. Will know what happened, what went on behind closed doors, but it will have a massive impact for our board, for our team, and therefore for all of the members. So for me, that was actually a real silently proud. And now I'm laughing at the irony in the story I'm sharing on a podcast. That for me yesterday was a moment of just silent recognition. It was like, I just did a really good thing here. Like, people won't know about it, but that was a really powerful moment to take with her.
I felt.
I'm really proud of that.
Oh,
Probably
so
wasn't the
Harriet.
answer we were expecting, as I
No,
said, many
no,
different
no, no,
things,
no.
but
I felt it. I felt it to my core. Like, yeah, silent recognition.
yeah. And I think we don't give ourselves that enough. I certainly never used to. So listeners out there, anyone that's listening to this right here in this moment or watching us, think of something that you can silently recognize and celebrate within yourself right now. That's another tip to supporting you with your self-worth and valuing who you are.
What is next for you, Harriet?
Like right now, I'm going
Like
to my
right now,
dogs.
yeah.
I've got a busy end of the year. We've got a lot of events. My new program launches next week. It's like a soft launch next week, and then it comes out at the beginning of the new year in its full launch. So I'm super duper excited about that. Next year, we've got some big events. I've got some incredible speaking opportunities that I'm really excited for. So to be honest, what's next? Onwards and upwards with the mission. Let's keep rising together and supporting female entrepreneurs to increase their impact and their income.
Oh my God, I am in awe. You are.
As are you. Takes one to know one.
Okay, we're going to pivot to a self-worth question. And the question for you, how do you define what is self-love to you? I know we touched on this, but then what is self-love to you?
The ability to show up for yourself unconditionally. What do I mean by that? Self-love, yes, it's all the loving kind. It's your self-talk. It's speaking to yourself like your own best friend. It's doing wonderful things. Like you can see here, there's flowers in the background. There are flowers all around the house because they give me joy and they make me feel good. And I buy them for myself and I take a moment like, gift from me, lovely,
Yeah.
right? So there's those moments of self-love, and there's all these wonderful things, the day-to-day gratitude about yourself, right? We can give gratitude externally, but if we're talking about self-love, gratitude for you, there's all these different things that you can do that are very positive. But what a lot of people miss when they talk about self-love is loving all of you. loving your tough times, loving your mistakes, loving I don't want to say weakness because they're not weaknesses, but just the part of you that perhaps doesn't show up in its brightest light all the time. Yes. Like loving every single bit of you, loving the voice that does question yourself, loving the insecure part of you that thinks that you're not worthy. Yeah. Loving all of that and seeing that every single part of us, if we didn't have, I don't like to call them negative emotions, but if we didn't have disempowering emotions, we wouldn't enjoy and embrace the empowering, wonderful, great feeling emotions as much as we do. So for me, self-love is unconditionally loving all of you.
Mm. Mm. In order for you to experience true happiness, you're gonna go through true sorrow. This the duality of it. I love that. Thank you for that, Harriet. What is your heart's greatest wish?
That everybody has a voice, and that everybody has the experience of being and feeling heard, seen, and valued for who they are, for what they are, and for what they have to share.
Do you have a mantra that you live by?
It's short, it's sweet, it's freaking cliche, but I love it. Love life. Love life. Like, don't get me wrong. Unleash your warrior within. Trust yourself. Lead with love for yourself, for your family, for your community, for the world. But actually, for me, my day-to-day mantra, love life. Like, I know people go out there and say this, but we're blessed. We are so blessed. Just like right now, for me to be sitting having this conversation, or for you having the conversation, or for your listeners tuning in, right? You've got internet. You've got a device that you're listening to it on. You're probably in somewhere safe, secure, with comfort. Like, yes, don't get me wrong. People have desires for all of these incredible things they want to do in their life. And I say, yes, go for it. But never forget the simple yet powerful understanding that just taking a breath, just being here, having the sunshine outside, especially for me right now here being in the UK. I'm not in the US in the middle of all this Trump craziness. I'm not in the Ukraine in the middle of a war.
Exactly.
Like, I am literally just blessed to be sitting behind a computer with a blue sky, able to use my body in good health. And I think I went a bit too much into the self there, but very much, I promise I'll wrap up now. Last but not least, love life, right? Again, life is not what happens. It's not what's around you. It's how you choose to feel. It's how you choose to think. It's what perspective you take. It's the experience you decide to have. I could walk outside and not at the moment because I picked it up yesterday, but I could walk outside, notice all the dog shit and just start whinging. Please excuse me. I don't know if the
It's okay.
dog poop, if you're editing, right? There's dog poop outside in the garden, and I could go outside and just focus on that and be like, oh, it's such a messy everywhere. This is awful. This is terrible. Like people do about the world.
Yeah.
Or I can look up and go, oh my goodness, the color of the leaves. Wow, they're incredible at this time of year. Like the yellows, the oranges. That one almost looks like a red highlighter tree. You know, again, that's just a simple one. But you asked me my mantra. My mantra is love life. There are things around you in every moment of every day. And if you choose to, you can have an extraordinarily beautiful experience. And even when you go through, notice that I said when you go through, not if you go through, when you go through, feeling doubt, feeling nervous, having fear, challenge, tough times, when you go through that, yes, it's hard. Yes, it's challenging. But ultimately, again, if you choose it to be, it can be a blessing. It can be something that you learn from. It can shape your life moving forwards because of how powerfully you understood the reflection of what you experienced. So love life, embrace what is around you. If there's no immediate problems like the two examples that I gave, just what can you embrace? What can you be grateful for right now? And if you're going through a hard time, same thing. Not as like, I've got this, everything's amazing. No, honor your feelings. But even if like your business, for example, is like you've just had a tragedy to your business or your business is going under, like just take a moment to go, but the sun's shining, but I can drink water right now. And I'm not saying that's going to solve your business, but it'll help you to feel better. And when we feel better inside ourselves, we're more likely to come up with solutions in challenging moments. So that was a huge, great, long answer that at the end of your episode. It feels like a podcast in itself. But
Yeah.
that is my mantra. And I wanted to give more context because it is said in the cliche, cheesy way, love life. But actually, if you really think in the way that I was just sharing about it, crikey, love life, love your experience here and make the most of it.
I love that. Oh my gosh. No wonder Les Francis said you're the Kobe of the speaking world. Oh my goodness. Okay. And now I'm friends with you. So yay.
Excellent. Great to connect. I'll obviously, when I'm off.
Yeah. What is there anything that keeps you up at night? Do you sleep well?
Now I sleep really well. Yeah. I don't always sleep for the longest amount of time, but yes, I sleep well.
Brilliant. Okay, one last question. I know you mentioned love life, but if you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it
Trust yourself. Did you say you wanted it connected to relationships or for the
be?
individual?
No.
Yeah,
Just
the
just
individual.
a
Yeah.
quote. Yeah.
Trust yourself. And for everybody out there,
Wow.
just ask yourself now, do you believe in something more than yourself? Do you believe in a higher faith? You know, again, it's going to be different for everybody. God, source, the universe, Allah, infinite intelligence. The list goes on. Yes, I'm not telling you what you should believe in. I'm just saying most people do. They believe in something more than themselves. But what they forget sometimes is that something more is what created you. It's with you. It's inside of you in every single moment. So take a pause. And when you lean into your higher faith, lean into faith of yourself because that's who you are. So step by step, build your trust yourself, and notice how your life will shift and become magical.
I officially love you. I love you.
It's been
I
super,
love
super
you.
awesome to connect with you.
Okay, how can people reach out to you, Harriet?
My website is harrietbratt.com, and then I'm on most of the socials, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn as Harriet Bratt.
Awesome.
I think Instagram's Harriet Bratt Speaker, actually, but you'll find me under Harriet Bratt. There's not many people with that name.
Oh, well, and there you have it, everyone. You've heard it straight from the source, Harriet Bratt. Before we wrap up, I'd like to thank you personally, Harriet, for the incredible work you're doing for the world. Despite the challenges, you continue to push forward, paving the way for those that will follow in your footsteps. Your dedication is truly inspiring. And for our listeners, this has been the podcast with that provocative title, You're Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, if you ever find yourself feeling worthless, you are not alone. But more importantly, ask yourself a deeper question. If I'm worthless, then why am I here? The truth is, your soul chose to be here energetically, coming all the way from the ethers. And for that reason alone, you are worthy and you are enough. And with that, this is Harriet Bratt, our guest of the day, and I'm Nick Nieras, your host, signing off. Thank you so much, Harriet, for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
And